The stars twinkled brightly in the night sky as a shiny spaceship zoomed toward Earth. Inside the ship, a group of aliens from the planet Zorth watched with excitement. Their leader, Commander Vexar, looked at the blue and green planet on the screen. "Prepare for landing! We are here to discover the secrets of Earth," he commanded. The aliens were eager to learn about humans, creatures they had heard much about. They believed humans were weak and fragile. "They will not survive our toxic oxygen," Vexar said with a grin. The crew cheered, thinking of how easy it would be to study the humans when they fell ill. As the spaceship touched down in a quiet forest, the aliens exited. They wore suits that protected them from Earth's atmosphere. The air felt different to them, thick and heavy with oxygen. Vexar took a deep breath. "It smells strange here," he muttered, "but this will be the perfect place to start our experiments." The aliens set up their equipment, creating a large dome to contain the oxygen levels they planned to release. Zorak, a curious young alien, felt a mix of excitement and worry. He had always been fascinated by Earth and its creatures. As the dome was built, he couldn't shake the feeling that they might be underestimating humans. Once everything was ready, the aliens activated the dome. They slowly released higher levels of oxygen, watching eagerly. "Any moment now, they will collapse," Vexar said, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. Nearby, a group of humans was camping in the forest. They sat around a fire, roasting marshmallows and laughing. Suddenly, they noticed a strange, glowing light above them. "What is that?" one camper asked, pointing to the spaceship. The others turned to look, curious and excited. As the light grew brighter, the aliens observed through their equipment. "Look! They seem curious, but they won't last long," Vexar exclaimed, rubbing his hands together. To their surprise, the humans did not fall over. Instead, they started to cough and then quickly began to adapt. They pulled out their camping gear and started putting on masks they had brought for smoke from the campfire. Zorak's eyes widened. "They are fighting back!" he exclaimed, shocked. "They are not weak at all!" The humans gathered together, forming a plan. They used their phones to search for information about oxygen levels and how to deal with air pollution. They shared tips and tricks, showing their teamwork and intelligence. Zorak watched in awe as they worked together. Vexar, however, was furious. "They should be suffering! Why are they not falling?" he shouted. "Increase the levels. Make it harder for them!" But Zorak felt a strange connection to the humans. "Wait, they are not giving up. Look how they help each other. They are smart," he pleaded with Vexar. "Maybe we should learn from them instead of harming them." Vexar scoffed. "They are just creatures, Zorak! They cannot possibly teach us anything!" But Zorak's heart raced with a different thought. He wanted to understand more about these humans. They were not what he had imagined. As the aliens increased the oxygen levels, the humans continued to adapt. They built makeshift filters using materials from their campsite. Some even started exercising, running around to strengthen their lungs. "This is amazing," Zorak thought. "They are proving us wrong." For hours, the aliens watched the humans. The campers showed incredible resilience and teamwork. Instead of succumbing to the toxic oxygen, they thrived and even laughed together. Zorak couldn't help but admire them. He realized they were much more than weak creatures. They were strong, resourceful, and full of life. Vexar grew frustrated. "We will not give up. We must find a way to make them weak," he shouted. But Zorak was beginning to feel differently. He wanted to explore this strange bond with the humans, a connection that had sparked his curiosity. As night fell, Zorak gazed at the stars, thinking about what lay ahead. He knew they had to study the humans, but now he wondered if there was more to learn than just science. Perhaps understanding was the real secret of Earth. The next day, the aliens woke up to a bright sun shining down on Earth. Commander Vexar stood at the control panel, glaring at the screen. "These humans continue to resist," he exclaimed, frustrated by their unexpected strength. "We must increase the challenge." Zorak watched, feeling torn. He had seen how humans could adapt and innovate. "Maybe we should rethink our approach," he suggested. "They are not just weak creatures. They have a lot to teach us." Vexar shook his head angrily. "No! We will show them the power of Zorth. Prepare the next experiment." With that, he ordered the crew to set up more equipment. The aliens gathered around a large machine, ready to release a mixture of toxins along with higher oxygen levels. They believed this would finally break the humans. Zorak felt uneasy but said nothing. He was curious to see how the humans would react this time. As they activated the machine, a cloud of strange gas floated down into the forest. The aliens watched through their screens, eager to see the effects. "This time they will not survive!" Vexar laughed, his confidence returning. Meanwhile, the campers were enjoying their morning by the fire. They had no idea of the danger lurking above them. Suddenly, a strange smell filled the air. One of the campers, Sarah, sniffed the air and frowned. "Does anyone else smell that?" she asked, looking around. The other started to cough as the gas spread. "What's happening?" shouted Tom, another camper, as he started to feel dizzy. The group quickly put on their masks again. "We need to figure out what this is," Sarah said, trying to stay calm. They pulled out their phones and began searching for answers. Zorak, watching closely, was amazed by how quickly the humans adapted. Instead of panicking, they worked together to gather supplies from their campsite. They found old clothes and made more filters to protect themselves from the gas. Zorak couldn't help but admire their determination. "Look at them," Zorak said, turning to Vexar. "They are working together to solve the problem." Vexar was not impressed. "They are wasting time. We need to increase the toxin levels even more," he shouted, pressing buttons on the control panel. As the aliens pushed the levels higher, the humans started to feel weak. But instead of giving up, they quickly developed a plan. Sarah took charge, urging everyone to drink more water and stay calm. "We need to help each other," she insisted. The campers checked on one another, making sure everyone was okay. Zorak felt a growing admiration for Sarah and her friends. He could see how strong their bonds were. They shared stories and kept each other's spirits up, refusing to let fear take over. They truly care for one another, he thought. This is what makes them strong. Despite the aliens' attempts to weaken them, the humans continued to push forward. They took turns standing watch, ready to alert the group if things got worse. They laughed and joked to keep their spirits high, even while coughing from the toxins. Zorak's heart raced as he watched the humans. He had never seen such courage before. They were fighting against something they could not see, and yet they refused to back down. It made him wonder if there was more to humans than he had ever imagined. Finally, after hours of struggle, the aliens decided to cut the experiment short. "Enough!" Vexar shouted, slamming his fist on the console. "These humans are proving too difficult." Zorak seized the moment. "They are not just difficult. They are incredible," he argued. "We should learn from them. We should understand how they survive instead of trying to defeat them." Vexar looked at Zorak, surprised by his passion. "You are becoming too attached to these creatures. We cannot let this continue," he warned. But Zorak could not ignore the truth he had seen. The humans had shown him a different way of life, one built on cooperation and strength. He knew he needed to learn more about them, to understand the connection he felt. As the sun began to set, Zorak felt a mix of emotions. He was excited to discover more about humans, but worried about what Vexar would decide next. Would they continue to experiment, or could there be a chance for understanding between their worlds? Zorak made a choice. He would find a way to protect the humans and discover the secrets they held. The adventure was only beginning. As dawn broke over the forest, Zorak awoke with a sense of urgency. He knew the aliens' experiments could not continue without dire consequences for the humans. The images of Sarah and her friends working together to fight against the toxins filled his mind. "I must protect them," he thought, determination growing in his heart. Meanwhile, Commander Vexar was in a foul mood. The previous experiment had failed to weaken the humans, and his frustration boiled over. He paced back and forth in the control room, surrounded by screens displaying the humans' campsite. "They are adapting too quickly," he growled. "We must try something different." Zorak, hiding behind a console, listened carefully. He needed to find a way to change Vexar's mind. "What if we invite them to talk?" Zorak suggested, stepping forward. "Maybe they can help us understand their resilience." Vexar glared at Zorak, his eyes narrowing. "You want to talk to them? Are you out of your mind? They are nothing but primitive beings." "They are more than that, Commander," Zorak replied, his voice firm. "They have shown incredible strength and teamwork. We could learn from them instead of trying to overpower them." Vexar slammed his fist on the console. "Enough! We will continue with our experiments. But this time we will use something they cannot resist." Zorak's heart sank. He knew Vexar was planning something dangerous. "What will you do?" he asked, his voice trembling. But Vexar only smiled, a cold glint in his eyes. "You'll see." With that, Vexar ordered the crew to prepare for the next experiment. They began to create a new gas. one infused with a potent toxin designed to disrupt the human body. Zorak felt a chill run down his spine. "This is wrong," he whispered to himself. "I must warn them." As the aliens worked, Zorak slipped out of the control room and made his way to the humans' campsite. He moved quietly, careful not to be seen. When he arrived, he hid behind a large tree, watching the campers. They were gathered around the fire, discussing their next steps. "Whatever that gas was, we need to stay strong," Sarah said, her voice steady. "Let's make sure we have enough supplies and keep our masks on. We can't let them defeat us." Zorak was impressed. He wanted to approach them, but feared what they might think of him. Suddenly, a loud roar erupted from above, and Zorak looked up to see a drone hovering over the campsite. The alien device was preparing to release the new gas. Without thinking, Zorak burst from his hiding spot. "Stop! You must leave," he shouted, his heart racing. The humans turned in shock, eyes wide with fear. "Who are you?" Tom asked, stepping forward. "What do you mean?" "I'm Zorak, from the spaceship above," he explained quickly. "You need to get out of here. They are going to release a dangerous gas." The campers stared at him, unsure of whether to trust him. "Why should we believe you?" Sarah questioned, her voice firm. "You're one of them!" Zorak felt desperate. "Because I want to help you. The commander wants to harm you, but I've seen how strong you are. You deserve a chance to survive!" Just then, the drone began to lower, and a thick cloud of gas started to fill the air. Panic set in among the humans. "What do we do?" shouted Tom, looking around for a solution. Zorak pointed to the edge of the forest. "Follow me! I know a safe place." He turned and ran, glancing back to see if the humans were following. They hesitated, but then sprinted after him, trusting their instincts. As they reached a hidden cave, Zorak quickly led them inside. The air was fresher, and they could breathe easier. Once they were safe, the humans stared at Zorak, their expressions a mix of confusion and gratitude. "Why did you help us?" Sarah asked, still catching her breath. Zorak took a moment to gather his thoughts. "I realized that you are not weak. You fight for each other, and I admire that. I do not want to see you harmed. We are different, but I believe we can learn from each other." Tom stepped forward, his expression softening. "If you're telling the truth, we appreciate your help, but we need to know more. What are they planning?" Zorak explained Vexar's plan and the toxins they had developed. The humans listened carefully, their eyes widening as they understood the gravity of the situation. "We can't let them win," Sarah declared, determination shining in her eyes. "We need a plan to fight back." Zorak nodded, inspired by their bravery. "Together we can find a way to stop them. You have shown me that humans are not what we thought. You are resilient, and I want to help you fight." With that, they began to formulate a plan. Zorak knew that together they could create a powerful alliance. The shocking truth of their strength united them, and they prepared to face the challenge ahead. Inside the cave, Zorak and the humans gathered in a circle. The air was filled with tension as they prepared to discuss their next move. Sarah looked at Zorak, her expression serious. "We need a solid plan if we're going to stop the aliens." "They won't back down easily." Zorak nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "We must be smart. The commander is not just powerful, he is also clever. He will expect us to be afraid." Tom leaned forward. "What if we use their own technology against them? If we can hack into their systems, we might be able to turn their weapons on themselves." "That's a great idea," Zorak said, his eyes shining with excitement. "But we'll need to get close to their ship. It's heavily guarded, and we can't go in without a plan." "I can create a distraction," Sarah suggested. "If I can get their attention, you and Tom can sneak inside and find the control room." Zorak looked at her, impressed. "That could work, but it's risky. You need to be careful, Sarah." "I'm ready for this," she replied firmly. "We've come too far to turn back now." As they discussed their strategy, the sound of an alarm suddenly blared from above. The drone had returned, and its red lights flashed ominously. The campers exchanged worried glances. "What are they doing?" Tom asked, his voice tense. Zorak peered outside the cave entrance. "They must have detected our presence." "We need to move quickly," he urged, feeling a surge of urgency. The group quickly packed their supplies and prepared to leave the cave. As they stepped outside, they were met with chaos. The forest was alive with the sound of alien machinery, and the sky was filled with more drones searching for them. Zorak's heart raced. "We must stay hidden," he said, leading the way deeper into the trees. They moved cautiously, ducking behind bushes and trees to avoid being spotted. Zorak was amazed by how well the humans adapted to the situation. They worked together, staying quiet and alert. Each time a drone passed, they held their breath, praying to remain unseen. After what felt like an eternity, they reached a clearing where they could see the alien ship hovering above. It was massive and intimidating, casting a long shadow over the ground. "That's it," Zorak said, pointing. "We need to get closer." Sarah took a deep breath, her determination shining through. "Let's stick to the plan. I'll create the distraction and you two will sneak inside. Are you sure you want to do this alone?" Tom asked, concern etched on his face. "I have to," she replied. "It's the only way. Just stay focused and trust me." With that, Sarah took a step back and started to make noise, yelling at the top of her lungs. "Hey, up here! You want us? Come get us!" Zorak and Tom exchanged worried looks as the drones turned toward Sarah's voice. "Now's our chance," Zorak whispered urgently. They dashed toward the ship while Sarah kept the attention of the aliens. As they neared the entrance, Zorak's heart pounded in his chest. "This is it," he murmured. They climbed inside, moving quietly through the dark corridors of the alien ship. Meanwhile, Sarah was still drawing the aliens' attention. She ran through the trees, dodging beams of light from the drones. She was fast and agile, using the forest to her advantage. But the aliens were relentless, and soon she felt them closing in. Back inside the ship, Zorak and Tom worked quickly to locate the control room. "Over there!" Zorak pointed to a door marked with strange symbols. They rushed toward it, but as they pushed it open, alarms blared again and red lights flashed all around them. "Quick! We need to find the main control panel!" Zorak shouted, panic rising in his throat. Tom nodded and they frantically searched the room. Zorak spotted a large screen filled with data. "This must be it," he exclaimed, moving toward it. As Zorak began typing furiously, he could hear the sounds of footsteps approaching. "Hurry!" Tom urged, glancing back at the door. Zorak worked quickly, his fingers flying over the keys. Suddenly, he found a way to access the drone's controls. "I can disable them," he announced, feeling a rush of hope. "But I need a few more seconds!" Outside, Sarah could hear the drones buzzing close behind her. She darted through the trees, her heart racing. She knew she couldn't keep this up much longer. "I have to distract them," she thought desperately. With a burst of energy, she turned and faced the approaching drones, waving her arms wildly. "Come on! Over here!" she shouted, hoping to draw them away from Zorak and Tom. Back in the control room, Zorak finally finished inputting the commands. "I did it!" he shouted triumphantly. Just as he pressed enter, the room shook with a loud explosion. The plan was set into motion, but the tension in the air was thick. They were racing against time, and Zorak knew they had to work together to survive. The explosion echoed throughout the alien ship, sending tremors through the metal walls. Zorak and Tom exchanged worried glances as they braced themselves against the control panel. "What just happened?" Tom shouted over the noise, his eyes wide with fear. Zorak quickly checked the screens. "I think I managed to disable the drones, but they're still coming for us. We need to get out of here." Just then, the door swung open, and a group of aliens stormed in, their eyes blazing with anger. "Intruders!" one of them shouted. Zorak and Tom instinctively backed away, their hearts racing. "Stay behind me!" Zorak ordered, putting himself between the aliens and Tom. But the aliens advanced, weapons raised and ready to fire. "We need a plan!" Tom yelled, his voice shaking. Zorak scanned the room, looking for anything they could use. "The emergency exit!" He pointed to a small door in the corner. "We can escape through there!" With no time to waste, they dashed toward the exit, but the aliens were fast. A shot rang out, narrowly missing Zorak. "Go, go, go!" he shouted, urging Tom to hurry. They reached the door just as it slid open, revealing a dark passageway. They stumbled into the tunnel, running as fast as they could. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of the aliens in pursuit. "We can't let them catch us!" Tom panted, pushing forward with all his strength. The passage twisted and turned, leading them deeper into the ship. Zorak's mind raced as he thought of the humans still outside. "What about Sarah?" he shouted. "We have to find her!" "I know, but we need to get to safety first," Tom replied, determination in his eyes. They finally reached a chamber filled with bright lights and strange equipment. Zorak spotted a control panel and rushed to it. "Maybe I can send a signal to Sarah." He quickly pressed buttons, trying to find a way to communicate. As he worked, Tom stood guard at the door, listening for any signs of the aliens. "Hurry, Zorak!" he urged, glancing nervously back down the tunnel. Just then, the control panel beeped to life. "I've got it!" Zorak exclaimed. "I can send a message to Sarah!" He typed quickly, hoping she would see it. "We're inside the ship! Head to the main entrance! It's safe!" With a final press of a button, Zorak sent the message. "Now we need to find her," he said, relief washing over him. They turned to leave the chamber when they heard a loud crash behind them. The aliens had arrived. "Run!" Tom shouted as they bolted back down the tunnel. The sound of alien voices grew louder and Zorak felt his heart race. They had to find Sarah and escape before it was too late. As they emerged from the tunnel, Zorak spotted Sarah in the distance, dodging drones and running towards them. "Sarah!" he yelled, waving his arms. "Over here!" She turned, relief flooding her face when she saw them. "I thought I'd lost you," she shouted, sprinting toward them. "I've been trying to draw them away." "Let's go!" Tom urged, motioning for her to follow. They took off together, heading for the exit they had discovered earlier. The sound of their pursuers grew fainter as they raced toward freedom. When they reached the exit, they paused for a moment, catching their breath. "We made it!" Sarah exclaimed, her eyes shining with joy. But just as they thought they were safe, the ship shook violently and alarms blared. "We need to leave now," Zorak said urgently, his heart pounding. They pushed through the exit and found themselves outside, but the ship was still hovering above them. "Look!" Tom shouted, pointing to the sky. The drones were starting to malfunction, crashing into the ground around them. Zorak realized that their plan had worked, and the aliens were losing control. "Let's get to cover!" Sarah urged as they sprinted toward a group of trees. They ducked behind the thick trunks, watching the chaos unfold. The aliens were confused, running back and forth as their drones fell from the sky. Suddenly, a bright light filled the air, and the ship began to descend rapidly. "What's happening?" Sarah asked, eyes wide. "It looks like they're losing power," Zorak replied, heart racing with excitement. "This is our chance!" As the ship crashed to the ground with a deafening roar, Zorak felt a sense of hope rise within him. "We can take this as a new beginning!" he exclaimed, turning to his friends. "Together we can rebuild and forge a new path." Tom and Sarah nodded, smiles spreading across their faces. "We've proven that humans can adapt and overcome," Tom said, pride in his voice. "And we have an alien friend to help us!" Zorak grinned, feeling a sense of belonging he had never known before. They had fought against the odds and survived. Now, as they stood together, they knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. "This is just the beginning," Zorak said, looking at his friends with determination. "Together we can create a future where humans and aliens work together." With that, they walked away from the wreckage, ready to embrace a new world of possibilities. They had turned their struggles into strength, and the future looked bright.